Hi everyone and welcome to a new video. Now this is another video for the poetry club Mark over at Words Everywhere started, and we discuss a poem every 2 weeks, and you should all definitely join because it's a lot of fun. Therefore, I will be linking Mark's channel in the description box for you to get more information on the poetry club. I think he will definitely upload his video on this poem sometime around where I will upload mine. So definitely look out for that. Yes. Also, that's what I wanted to say. I will link a link to my written blog post on this poem in the description, where I will be discussing more of the themes of this poem, because as you can see by the title, this will be more of a discussion sparked by the poem. And if you would like to hear more of my thoughts on the poem and the themes in the poem itself, which I will touch on here briefly, but more of my extended thoughts, the link is in the description box. Now, the poem that we are discussing this week is Sci-Fi by Tracy K, which I will have to admit, this was my first time reading any Tracy K like poetry at all, which I almost feel like is a little bit of a sin if you enjoy modern poetry or more modern poetry. But yes, it was my first time. It will definitely not be my last. I will for sure pick up a collection by her sometime soon. But yeah, I will actually read the poem for once, because I fail to do that pretty much every time. But I will also provide a link to the Poetry Foundation website where you can read the poem for yourself. But this is Sci-Fi by Tracy K. There will be no edges but curves, clean lines pointing only forward. History, with its hard spine and dog-eared corners, will be replaced with nuance, just like the dinosaurs gave wave to mounds and mounds of ice. Women will still be women, but the distinction will be empty. Sex, having outlived every threat, will gratify only the mind, which is where it will exist. For kicks, we'll dance for ourselves, before mirrors stopped with golden bulbs. The oldest among us will recognize that glow, but the word sun will have been reassigned to the standard uranium neutralizing device found in households and nursing homes. And yes, we'll live to be much older thanks to popular consensus. Weightless, unhinged, eons from even our own moon will drift in haze of space, which will be once and for all scrutable and safe. So yes, again, it was my first time reading Tracy K. so I'm not sure if she writes in a similar direction theme-wise. If you know that, you can let me know in the comments. But this particular poem sparked an idea in myself, which I would like to discuss today. It is very clear, or at least to me, very clear, that this poem is looking at, obviously from the title as well, looking at how our future will evolve into something that right now seems almost fiction. but is not that far away from what we have right now, and what the standards are regarding development of technology and science. So from the tone I gather, it is also a bit critical of that development, which resonated with me as I'm going to explore in my blog post, because I tend to be a person that is a bit more on this, a bit more skeptical in regards of the development of technology. And I will again explore that in the blog post. Is a bit of an irony regarding the fact that I am using a technical device to communicate with people that are usually, without a technology aspect, out of my reach. And here we get into the meta aspect of this discussion, because I want to raise the question. I will in no way be able to answer it, but I'm going to raise it and provide some insights on it, and you are more than welcome to do that yourself, maybe in a response video or a comment. But I want to raise the question, is poetry, literature in general, but especially in this case poetry, is poetry a way of social engagement? A lot of people see poetry as a form of art, and art is oftentimes used as a way of transporting a message, which poetry does as well, but also in a wider sense of bringing people together. We have many occasions with that when we look at art exhibitions. You are in a room with a certain amount of people, and you are looking at an art piece together. Even if you do not go there together, you have a group of people around you that will look at the same art piece in a certain amount of time, and you are, even if you don't want that necessarily in the first place, you are instantly connected to these people in the same room through the fact that you looked at the same picture, even if you did have a different interpretation. It can also be seen that you're going out with friends to visit an art exhibition. So how is this poem especially a form of social engagement? Because I think the way this theme is explored through poetry makes it more of a way to discuss it openly and with different directions. Because if it was, for example, discussed in a non-fiction book, it would have a different approach to opening up a discussion, because there are already facts in the book, and you sort of go from there and from the set facts that are brought into this work of non-fiction. We have a fiction work where we have a set storyline with people exploring this theme. May that be metaphorically or not, but it's still an outlining of a plot that we are going to discuss. And with poetry, especially this poem, the theme is there, but it is not necessarily mentioned specifically, as this is the theme of this poem. You will have to find it out alongside interpreting this poem, maybe with others. You could do it on your own, but to let others have their perspective brought into a discussion is much more helpful when it comes to poetry, and can give you a much larger perspective, on things that you might not have seen, because poetry can sometimes be not directly mentioning the topic that is explored in it. And therefore I think that an aspect of poetry that we not necessarily look at when we discuss poetry is definitely the aspect of a social engagement. We do have book clubs where we discuss a certain book, but I would argue that here in this with this poetry book club, we have a much wider discussion on the themes and topics and the poem itself, because a poem provides, or one of the aspects that I think a good poem provides, is that it can be open for a very big a range of interpretations, and a poem lives through the discussion that we have with people around. And therefore I think that when we look at all literary forms we have, poetry might be, in my opinion, again, this is an open discussion for everyone to join, but in my opinion, poetry is, for all literary forms, or for all forms of writing we have, the one that raises the most engagement with others, and almost the most feeling of needing to seek out other voices to get to know the poem, may that be for understanding it better or for gaining a different insight other than your own. Therefore, I found it very interesting that this poem is discussing a topic that is generally well received as a form of discourse between a group of people. It is generally a topic we hear a lot being discussed, the evolution of technology and science and what that means for our future. And it can be a very heated argument, because there are a lot of times two very extreme sides to the argument and some in between, and this is an argument that evokes emotions in people and can be a discussion that gets very personal and, on a more positive side, very engaging. And that this is the topic that has been chosen to be discussed in this poem, I found very interesting, and I wonder what the idea was behind that, how she wanted to explore this theme in her poem, maybe in her other work. I'm not sure, because this is the only work I've read by her. But I think it could be argued that in the first place she wanted to transport that message of how she is feeling or viewing this aspect of future. But I also think that it is a form of opening the discussion, and I think that this is a general aspect of poetry in itself, and one that I enjoy most, and one that I also want to bring onto this channel, exploring a poem or a poetry collection as a way of opening a discussion about the topic. So if you are excited about that, please let me know. I will hopefully be able to do more of those type of videos in the future. Again, if you would like to take this question and make it into something of your own on your channel, that would be great. But if you don't want to leave a comment or anything, again, everything I mentioned will be linked down below. Mark's channel for more information for the poetry club, my blog post for a more extended version of thoughts on the poem itself, and the link to the Poetry Foundation site where you can read the poem. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little bit something different, and definitely getting you a taste of what will be on this channel in the future. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye everyone, thanks for watching.